Got another pop quiz for you. This time let's see how strong your memory is. In a moment I'm going to give you a list of over 20 words. I'm going to give you about 20 seconds to try to remember these words. So no cheating, no writing down the words. Just stare at them, study them, and see how many of them you recall. Here is your list. Take a moment if you want to pause the video and see how many you recall. We're going to talk for a moment about memory. How do we recharge, amplify that memory? Whether you're trying to remember something you needed to pick up at the store or you're trying to remember content for an actual class, what are the tips and strategies that will help you store those memories longer term with a little less effort? In order to understand how to recharge your memory, we have to take a little tour back in history and talk about a guy named Hermann Ebbinghaus. Now this guy was one of the first weirdos to study human cognition, to try to figure out how good are we at remembering things. So he gave himself a list of all sorts of random combinations of letters and tried to track his memory over time. So based off of his initial observations and a lot of replicated studies, what we know is that typically within just a short amount of time, our initial retention drops significantly. After just about 20 or 30 minutes, our ability to remember drops in half.
You have my undivided attention.
A key insight here is that your brain is actually built to forget. Now this might seem dumb because we should remember everything, but consider your brain like a computer. Have you had that moment where you have so many files, so much data on your computer or your phone that all of a sudden it starts to slow down? Your brain is the same way. So your brain is built to only store and remember the most important information. So okay, you might still be thinking, well, like the stuff for school isn't that important in the grand scheme of things. If you feel that way, I invite you to watch the previous video, how to reframe that. For now, just consider that in order for your brain to actually sense that something is significant, it has to see it multiple times. In addition to Ebbinghaus's work on how often we forget, he also helped us understand when are the key moments to recall. So after we do some review, how does that retention maintain or sustain over time? To help you recharge your brain more significantly, I'm going to give you just 3 of the most important moments where you should do some review in order to trick your brain into thinking it is so important to store it long term. It is something known as 10-24/7. Now you might have to plug in your phone all the time to recharge, but to recharge your brain and your memory, really these are the 3 critical moments. The first is within 10 minutes or so of first remembering or experiencing something. Now your teachers most likely build in these moments to review within class, but if they don't, at least try to figure out how can I go through a little review for my brain a little bit after the fact. How do I, right at the end of class, take 1 minute to quickly go back through my notes to give my brain one more burst of memory? If our brain experiences it and then very quickly experiences it again, it is the first cue to remember the information. The second most important time is 24 hours later. Fun fact, memories are not permanently made until we go to sleep. It is during sleep that our brain is starting to make neural connections to help create those memories. So A, make sure you sleep. B, make sure that the next day after that moment of processing, you expose your brain to the information again. Once again, letting your brain know that, hey, I experienced this yesterday, it is just as important today, and your brain will start to recall. The last key moment is 7 days later. About a week or so, we've created some space now. Rather than just hitting it every single day, if we give a little gap and then do some review, our brain once again realizes that this isn't just a short-term memory that I need, it is a long-term memory that I need. What this could look like for you is that Sunday before you go to sleep, spend some time doing a quick review of the content that you've learned, even for 10-15 minutes, to make sure you are set and prepared mentally for the week that follows. Now, the other critical insight to know is that not all methods of recalling memories work the same. So if all you do is simply read through your notes, your brain might not actually be active. Instead, what you should do is active recall. What active recall could look like is either speaking it, writing it, or quizzing yourself. if you talk it out loud, if you recreate summarizing your notes, not just word for word, but the most critical details, if you use flashcards to do a quick recall, that is going to do more for active memories than just passively looking at your notes. So here's the thing, even if you don't feel like the content is super important, if you're spending the time initially learning it, why not spend a small dose of time recalling it well enough so that you don't have to cram before a test, that you know the content well enough to be able to use it successfully in the classroom and beyond. So let's check back in. How many of these words do you still remember? How many of them have you forgotten? With that, my homeboy Ebbing and I wish you well.